Hey guys, NW Order for Life here with Seven Deadly Sins Episode 6 review. Um, we start off with Elizabeth and Hawk watching Meliodas and Dianne fight each other. At some point, Meliodas and Dianne snap out of it for a second, and they realize that everybody's around them and, you know, whatever. And then all of a sudden, we see that there's like this bell ringing or whatever, and the bell ringing basically puts them back into that hypnotic state, and they go right back at it, fighting. And they say, "Where did everybody go? I don't know. Was it you? Did you do this?" So they kind of like lose their reason as well as fall into a hypnotic state. And so it's not just like an illusion, but it's like an illusion with like kind of like defeating common sense, because they should know that like, oh, maybe this is maybe that they are still there, but they don't even think that. So you can tell there's some kind of mental effect there as well. And the other girl, other Ruin is one of the holy knights. One of the other holy knights, I forget her name. She uses her whip or whatever and commands these like insects to like hurt everybody, and more specifically hurt like the two innocent people and Hawk and herself. And she puts herself. The princess has a lot of character development here because Elizabeth puts herself in harm's way to protect everybody, and basically she takes all the insect cuts and bites and protecting the little boy. And while protecting him, the little boy is like, "Oh, that's very noble of you, princess. But reality is much harsher than this, something like that." And the boy turns into the holy knight Ruin. It was Ruin all along, using I guess, his bell to, because you see that the little boy's like stick had a bell on it, and Ruin has a staff with a bell on it attached to it, and so it was causing the problems along with that bell. So Ruin is like, "I'm going to teach you respect, princess, or whatever, and or like, I'm going to teach you the truth about like the real world," something like that. And he smashes her in the face with the staff with the bell. And this was a pretty hard hit. Now, mind you, the princess has been cut up, and just like a whirlwind, like a tornado of like razor insects, like clawing at her body and biting her and ripping her clothes and all that stuff. So she's all messed up, and now this guy smashes her right in the face. So he's like, "Oh, before you lose consciousness or something, because he wasn't trying to kill her because they're not supposed to. He was like, "I'll tell you that my rune, the secret behind my power is." And then he sees that his bell is gone, and in reality, the princess bit the bell off when she got smashed in the face. Smashed in the face, and she bit the bell. And then I was like, "What?" And she had it in her mouth, and she threw it away, and it was kind of like crushed, like she crushed it, so it couldn't ring anymore. So wow, Elizabeth, that's pretty damn impressive, for a helpless girl that has no power. And basically, then Ruin gets pissed off and tries to hurt her, and that's when Meliodas jumps in and saves Elizabeth. And Dianne also appears behind the female holy knight. And Dianne basically says, or I'm sorry, Meliodas basically says like, "Elizabeth, your resolve is amazing, and I'm not gonna let I'm not gonna let it go to waste." And proceeds to basically just pummel. He pummels Ruin, and Ruin is like, gets flung into the wall of where Ban is, and Ruin turns his body into steel. He's like, "Oh, I was expecting Meliodas, you could break my armor. Is that what you thought I'd say? No, the armor is just a covering for my real body. It's all, completely made of steel. You can't break it." And Meliodas just punches it right through, like rubber, right through his rib cage or whatever, like right, and Ruin is done. Ruin is ruined and pretty much. I'm not sure if he dies or if he's just knocked out. I forget. But yeah, Meliodas makes short work of him, and then all of a sudden, no, all of a sudden, the guards around the prison just run in fear, like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here. We can't do anything to the Seven Deadly Sins." And Dianne pretty much does the same thing to the other girl, crushing her, and she's crushing the female Holy Knight girl with the insect control like in her hand, just crushing her, and that was it. So they break into the prison and they see that Bond has already killed. We see before that Bond kills the guy that had imprisoned him 5 years ago. And he basically says he did it because he wanted to experience pain and suffering. Bond wanted to be tortured, and that's why he allowed this Holy Knight guy to stop him. But this Holy Knight guy actually thinks that Bond is a villain, which is interesting because he looks so evil with the tentacles coming out of his face, and like thorns coming out of his face, tentacle like, and like the red like light in his mask, kind of like red eyes. So it's interesting that he supposedly is like this relatively new Holy Knight that thinks that the seven deadly sins are evil when the Holy Knights are pretty much doing all this evil shit. And so he dies from Bond just impaling him with his own spear thing. And then Jericho runs out of the prison, finds the last Holy Knight, the one that hired the doctor, the one that can turn invisible, I forget his name, Golgious, I think. She hangs out with him, and Golgious does some kind of crazy magical ability or something where he casts a barrier on the entire prison so that they can't leave. So when Bond and his captain Meliodas, they meet each other again, they have this friendly like back and forth where they punch each other through a bunch of walls and back and forth. They go flying through walls, and they're like smashing heads together. They do an arm wrestling thing, and they're just having a great time. And Elizabeth's like, don't worry about them. Oh, by the way, they were there to Meliodas went there to rescue the doctor's daughter, the doctor that we think died. He actually didn't die. They rescue his daughter, and Dianne puts the daughter in the bag. And so Meliodas and Ben are, in her bag just to like carry her safely where Elizabeth is. Elizabeth's all damaged. So Meliodas and Ben are doing the arm wrestling thing. The entire prison collapses. The barrier breaks, and Golgious and Jericho are like shocked at the power of the seven deadly sins. And then they go back to the village, and they find out that the doctor is somehow alive. I don't really understand how he was alive, but he lived, and he's reunited with his daughter, and they all celebrate with a feast. And then we get a preview of the next episode, and the next episode shows, or not preview, we just get like a little epilogue at the end where they show King, which Bond mentioned a couple times this episode, King being one of the seven deadly sins. King is talking to Gilthunder, who is in civilian wear. So it seems like he has some kind of deal with Gilthunder, or whatever. So that's an interesting story plot point for next week. But yeah, it was a great episode. I really loved Elizabeth's character development because she proved to be a badass. She was tough and determined and really resilient, like how she got through all that. And Bond is great because he's psycho, sadistic characters being developed. And yeah, story-wise, what's going on with King and why is he supposedly working with Gilthunder. It's really interesting. So it was a really good episode. I'm gonna give the episode a 9 out of 10. Really like it. Really like the fighting too. How Meliodas just destroys Ruin, the Night Ruin, and that's it. So yeah. So guys, let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments below. Be sure to rate the video if you like it and subscribe for more videos in the future. Thanks and have a good day.